We have 8 counties, and we're busy.
Okay, we're rolling.
Great.
Okay. So I think what's important too is if you can talk about, just in general, child abuse and neglect cases, just, from your standpoint, what do you see just in general?
Child abuse cases are on the rise. We have an epidemic of methamphetamine in our area, which is destroying families. And so obviously that creates a huge burden on the Department of Social Services, Child Protection, and the courts. And so I would attribute a lot of it to that epidemic that we have right now.
So when you read about some of these cases, just tell me what goes through your mind as you're reading these many cases that come before you.
It's tragic. These children are a lot of times in single-parent homes with a significant other of mom or dad, and they're not getting the nutrition they need. They're being neglected. There's no one to watch over them. And then there's the constant threat of the outside source of drugs coming into the home or other types of things like that.
So when you read these cases, what do you hope for?
The hope is always a reunification of the children with their parents. That's the goal. That's the goal from day one until the end of the case is let's find a way to fix this family. If we can fix this family and keep this family together, that's the best for everyone.
And
Can I
sometimes
just hang on a second? Your watch is clicking on the
Oh,
table. You don't
take it
mind
off.
just taking it off?
Yeah.
That would help us. It hasn't been too bad yet, but there's a...
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes I guess let's talk about the foster families and how important that is. So when children are taken from their home, what happens to those kids?
If there is a kinship or a relative that's available to take those children, they will go to a relative. More often than not, that's not available, so they end up going to licensed foster care. They do a wonderful job as well. We have an extreme shortage of foster care, especially for Native American children. Our Native American children do end up in foster care, but we don't have enough Native American foster parents.
So, when do you bring a CASA in, or why is a CASA important?
CASA is brought in at the initiation of the case. Every case I have involves a CASA worker. CASA is the voice of the child, can be the voice of the foster parents. It's vital to the administration of what we do that CASA is involved.
Okay. And what benefits do you see to the child when a CASA is involved?
It's incredible. More likely than not, these children bond with their CASA worker. They see them on a regular basis. They go out for fun activities. The CASA worker or volunteer is someone that these kids can talk to and feel like I can tell you things that I maybe can't tell other people. So they're confidants, they're fun, they're someone that they feel a bond with, and it's so very important for these kids to have some kind of consistency in their lives when their whole lives have been uprooted, especially if they're in foster care.
So, how often do you get reports from the CASA?
Every time we have a hearing, which varies, but I would say every 30 to 60 days I get a report from a CASA worker.
And how do you view those reports?
I review it as just as important as any other report I receive in a case.
And at the end game, we've been told that children who have a CASA are in the system for a lot less time. Typically, do you see that?
I do see that, with the ultimate goal being reunification of the children with a parent or the parents. I think that CASA plays an important role in facilitating that ultimate goal.
Okay, very good. So tell me about, sometimes there are cases that are really very, very hard that don't end the way you want them to. But then there are also cases, and I know you can't speak specifically to that, but there are some really happy cases too. Can you just talk about how it feels as a judge when something comes to a situation, whether it's a reunification with a family like this, or an adoption, or just tell me how that feels from your standpoint when it has a good ending?
The worst thing that I do as a circuit judge is terminate the parental rights of parents. That's the worst thing that I do. More often than not, these children are reunified with their parents. And it's such a great feeling when I'm sitting here and the parents are here and the case is dismissed because the goal has been met. The family's been fixed, things are stable, and the children are now in good hands. Taking a step further, in the event of a termination of parental rights, the next best thing that I see is when these kids get adopted.
These proceedings, I've never been to one. I've always thought it would be interesting. During court proceedings, when you do talk about the children, or they're not here, correct? It's the CASA worker who speaks on their behalf.
Right. The children have a lawyer. The court appoints a lawyer for the children in every case, and so the lawyer for the children also speaks on behalf of the children. But the CASA worker sees the children and talks to the children more often than the lawyer does.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else, Michael, that you can think of that I think I got what I'm imagining the B-roll that we took with the CASA worker and the two little boys at the CASA office. As you're talking about them building that relationship, I'm just imagining.
Yeah, unless there's anything that you'd like to say, from your perspective that you haven't mentioned
Okay.
about doing this.
I've been doing this for 3 years, and I can't imagine a system that we have without CASA. They are so important. It is such an important part of the abuse and neglect process that we have, and I just can't imagine handling these cases without their involvement.
So maybe a call to action for others. So what would you say to someone, maybe like me, who might think that would be an interesting thing to do? How would you inspire me to do that?
Go to a volunteer training session. Find out what CASA is about. Give it a try. I think it'll melt your heart if you do that. I really do. It's so worthwhile to reunify families and make a difference. We never see the kids. The kids are represented by a lawyer or by a CASA volunteer or both. And one thing that CASA's been doing in the last year is providing me pictures in their reports. So gives me an opportunity to see really who these kids are and what they look like.
And how's that make you feel? I guess talk about that.
It brings paper to color. I mean, it makes it more real when you can see what these kids look like and try to get an idea based on that picture who they really are.
It's got to be really hard when your heart is so in this. I can't even imagine how you would feel when you hear about these cases. How does that affect you as a judge?
They're the hardest cases, I think, that circuit judges have to handle. You're dealing with families, a lot of times tragic circumstances, and potential termination of parental rights. The ultimate thing that a judge doesn't want to do.
That right?
And you did it because of them, or?
Because the lawyer told me that the kids were fascinated with the whole process.
Pound here. Good, hang on, I'm gonna do a little bit. Now do one more.